Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tracy Lindice. I am an instructional designer with TCS ES Education System. My credentials didn't work to sign on, so I had to use Sean's. Not exactly sure why. Usually when I help with these things, I'm on and they make me the presenter. So that may be the situation. So I do apologize for the short delay. And we're going to go ahead and get started, okay? Okay, we're going to start off with just the actual way you do track changes and talk a little bit very quickly because we only have a short time, made even shorter by me not being able to log in. This is a very, very simple way to edit documents and let people know what you've edited. In the instructional design team, we use them especially when we're doing a course map. And this is an example of one of the course maps that I'm doing for Pacific Oaks College. This is, and we may run a little bit past the 1:15 mark because we just started. So I do apologize, technology. This is a standard course map that we use in Microsoft Word. And so when we send things to our SMEs, which are subject matter experts, we make certain changes and we want them to see those changes. So we use a combination of track changes and comments. So the first thing I want to show you is, where do you find this? It's always kind of buried within the Word ribbon. So if you click on review, that is where you're going to find track changes. You're going to find a number of review things here for track changes, okay? It's as simple as pressing the track changes button. You can tell if it's on two ways. If you click it and it turns gray, it's on, okay? And if you make any changes to the document. So let's just say that I typed mop. You will see instead of course map, it says mop. The really cool thing about Microsoft Word is it will show, if you have your settings for your name, it will show the date, the time, and who deleted it and who made what changes. This is very useful if you have several people working on a document. Now, if I didn't want to see all of this, now this particular document is very good. You'll scroll down and you'll see some changes, like when I was requesting a title for a discussion, and also when field codes change. That's if you're changing a bullet to a non-bulleted item. It will even track that for you. It will also allow you to ask questions using the comment feature. But we'll get to that in just a second. If you have a lot of changes in the document, it can make it kind of hard to read. So you can toggle between what type of markup you're going to use. You can use simple markup, which kind of shows things that have been changed or removed, and it takes out all of the additional, more detailed changes. You can even go back to the original view of the document. And as you can see here, it's kind of, because this is a table, it made some weird changes. Or you can go to no markup. That way you can look at the document as it has been changed. But we're going to go back to the all markup, which helps you to see, and we're going to scroll up to some place where there's a change been made. What change has been made? Who's made it? Now, there will be times where somebody will make a change in your document, like I accidentally typed mop, and I don't want that change. I always suggest that you save it under a new file name before you get started. And then you can always reject changes. So if I don't like this change, I can go to reject and reject the change and move to next. The move to next may take you very far into the document. It's not going to do that here, but if there are very few changes in the document, this may not be a feature that you want to use. You can just reject the change and you'll see that that change went away. You can also reject this change here because that was correct in the first place. But here, where a change is acceptable, a trick that I use is I highlight all of it and I just click accept. Or you can accept or reject a change. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to click accept. So then when I scroll up, you'll see that it's changed and it is no longer marked up. Another feature of track changes is show markup. You can choose which type of markup you want to see. Ink is when someone's using like a pen feature, but I always leave comments, insertions, and deletions on. Sometimes I turn formatting off because formatting will show, like I demonstrated earlier, those field codes and bullets and things like that. You may not want to see those. And there is also a balloon feature where you can show the revisions in balloons over to the side, like the comments, or you can show all of the revisions in line. And my favorite is show only comments and formatting in balloons, because then you're going to actually see the changes in the document, and then you'll see comments here below. So another part of track changes, which is really nice, is that I can go and ask questions about things that I've changed or things in the document, and that's part of this review tab. Not necessarily part of track changes, but I always like to tell people if I'm making a change, why I'm making the change. So we'll scroll down here in this course map. And so if anybody helps to design online courses here, it will prove to be fairly useful, because sometimes I'll move an assignment or make a change. And so here I just have a question about what something meant, or I will change the name of this particular assignment, because it's not really a written assignment. It's actually a stats class. So they're actually doing an exercise. And so I can make the change by deleting written assignment. Then I put in exercise, and then I put in title, but I'm asking, okay, we don't have a rubric for this particular assignment. So may I please have one, because this is an exercise versus a written assignment, which I have standard rubrics for. You can move from one change to the next by just clicking next and next and next. And that will make it very easy for you to go through the document and see all of the changes that were made. You can go back to the previous changes, and you can see where I've got more comments and where I have made some formatting changes. You also have a feature, say you've sat and you've read the entire document, you're fine with all the changes, you don't want to click through all of the changes, you can click the accept button in the drop down and accept all changes. You could also accept all changes and stop tracking, but if you have further edits to make based on a comment that someone's made, you probably don't want to stop tracking. But I always let people know when I send them a document that I've used track changes. Why is that? Because sometimes when you open Microsoft Word, track changes is not activated in the document, even though changes have been saved and tracked. So you'll always want to let people know, hey, if you're going to make more changes, you always want to ensure that this is on. It's really simple. Like I said, you can always go back and view the original. You can toggle between the two, because often when I'm working on this, I don't want to see all of my changes. So I want to track them, but just to keep the area clean and so I can see the text as how it is supposed to be, I will turn off the markup and just do no markup, so that I can make all of these changes, and then I can always toggle back and make sure that they're being recorded. That's track changes. Fairly simple. Sorry that we're running a little bit longer. I don't think I had the proper credentials to log in as an organizer, but I can take your questions now and answer anything you want to know about track changes in Word, but it really is that simple. Do we have any questions? Out of respect for your time, I did talk a bit fast, so I don't want to not take time to answer questions. All right, let me roll up and answer these questions. No markup means that we are actually recording the changes, but you don't see them on the screen. So I've got all markup, I go to no markup and they go away. That doesn't mean that they're gone. That just means that I've got it pretty much clear so I can just read the document as it has been edited. If one or more people work on a document, as long as in your Microsoft Word you have a setting for options, you make sure you go into there and you choose to put your name and your initials. And that way it will record your name. Now, sometimes people simply hit the arrow button. So you'll go to File and you'll go to Options. Make sure your name is in there, because sometimes when people do track changes and they don't have their personalization set, we don't see a name for those changes. Okay. And I can go over the show markup options slower for you, most definitely. So you have the first choice, which is the default, all markup. It's going to show every single edit, every single deletion, every single addition, and every single comment. Okay? If you do simple markup, what it's going to do is it's not going to show those deletions, but it will allow you to see the comments and the bubbles. So even though comments is not part of track changes, as you can see, comments is in its own little space here, you are still going to see that it's part of this complete package. If you go to no markup, you're not going to see comments, you're not going to see changes, but that's not always a bad thing, especially if you want to read the document in its current edited state. And then the original, which does weird things in this particular document, so I don't want to pop it out again, which shows what, and you may want to use that original feature because you want to see what you originally wrote versus what's been changed. But the best way to go is all markup. It gives you a clear understanding of what's been changed, as well as the questions that have been answered. And it records everything, including formatting and all of those things. So yes, they'll show up in different colors, okay? And it will show, as see here in Microsoft, I've even got my little picture here. So you'll see my face, you'll see my name, you'll see when I asked the question, and you will see the difference between two people who have done markup. Okay? That have I answered all of the questions?
No, there's a few more. Next is from Megan Ratcliffe. It says, where do we go if down the road we have specific questions about track changes?
Well,
Is there
okay. Well, I believe the ed tech team can answer some questions. There are also, if you literally type in how do you track changes in Word in Google, it gives you a step-by-step guide as well. But if you want to ask, like, say for example, you're working with your instructional designer and you have questions about track changes, we can answer them for you. We've been using this particular feature for years. But I apologize, Sean's not on today. If if you have a basic question, I think EdTech would be more than happy to answer it for you.
okay? And then there's a follow-up question from Elaine in terms of the show markup. She meant the options that include
Yes.
comments and okay.
Oh, okay. Show markup. So if you click that drop down arrow, these check marks are indicative of what you want to see. So say, for example, I didn't want to see comments anymore. For whatever reason, I don't want to see the comments. I just want to see the changes. I can unclick this and the comments go away. If I click this, the comments come right back. And so formatting, usually I turn this off because most of the time people are not really concerned about if I made it something bulleted or unbulleted. And that can really, that formatting stuff comes up here. But what I have had happen, and I'm going to try it right now, is I will turn this off and it will still show up. But they've obviously fixed that in this version of Word. So say I only want my comments and my changes, and I don't want to see formatting, like I formatted the table. I can turn that off and I can turn it back on again. Elaine, was that a good answer for your question?
We'll see if she replies. Balloons, question mark.
Balloons are these. You can set the balloons to appear on the side of your track changes. You can show the revisions in balloons. This is something
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't used because it is a lot. Okay. But it will show when you deleted it and what you deleted. So if you want to show the balloons in your markup, you can. You can say show all revisions in line, and that will remove the balloons. And if you go back to balloons and you say only comments and formatting in balloons, which is my favorite default because it allows me to ask my questions out here and it allows me to see the changes within the text itself. And Megan, my email address is tdice at I'm going to type it in the chat. And you guys can email me too. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. But I promise you, and that's why this was only supposed to be 15 minutes long, that this is probably one of the simplest tools to use in Word.
We've got a couple more questions, Tracy,
Okay.
if we have time. So,
Sure.
from Ray. So a new file name is created each time the document is changed,
No,
unless it is a cloud document.
no. In order for a Word document's name to change, you have to change it. So that's why I suggested at the beginning of the lecture, the webinar, that you save it under a new file name. So say, for example, this was a document from the 10th of July, and I have my own special way of naming files because what I have is the month, the date, and the year. I would have to use the save as option, okay, and browse, and then I would go to there and I would change the name of that file to reflect today's date. However you want to, you can change the date. So if I was to change the date to today, this is 180725, which is the 25th of July 2018, course map. That way the person that gets it, receives it, knows that it has a new date and a new name. I don't want to give it a new name because this document's already been submitted, but we can go ahead and click save because I can delete it later. So you rename the document. Sometimes people put their initials at the end of the file and say, TLD revision or something like that. But just opening a track changes document and recording changes does not mean that it has a new file name. You still have to give it a new file name.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Another question, just kind of trying to keep us going.
No, that's
If
okay.
if two people mark up, do the markups show in different colors or?
Yes. Yes, they
Okay.
show in different colors. I think I answered that a few minutes ago. Not only will it show in a different color, it's going to show your name. If you have your picture set up in Microsoft 365, you will be able to, they'll see your picture, my name, everything. So it's going to be in different colors and it's going to be identifying by that person's name.
Okay, which feature causes the strike through,
When you
the
delete
line through
them.
the words?
So say, for example, I type who. You see how that worked? It does the
Mhm.
strike through for you and it records the new word that you typed. And that
So
is
when you
track
delete it.
changes. That is a feature in track changes. So you don't have to set your text. See, back in the day before this feature existed, you literally had to format the text to make it say strike, to make it strike through, which is an option in the fonts, but we're not going to get into that one today. So it does the strike through automatically once you have track changes turned on. So for example, if I turn off track changes and I type the word who again, no strike through, no changes. So I got to make sure that I have that toggled on. But now that I've toggled it back on, if I delete it, it's going to record it.
Gotcha. Okay, two more questions.
Sure.
First one, how do I get rid of the comments so I can share the corrected document?
Okay. So if you want to get rid of the comments, so we've already walked through the fact, say, for example, if you're accepting or rejecting the changes. Working with a comment is you can go to use the previous and the next buttons, but getting rid of a comment is as simple as right-clicking on it and going to delete comment, and it goes away. And that's what we usually do in the final versions of our course maps, because ideally, all of these comments should have been addressed. If you click on the little button here, I can even add a response or an additional point in a comment. So somebody else, this could be like a running conversation. If you click on that and your name will pop up. So if it was a different person, their name would pop up and you could answer the comment right there.
Okay. So, and the last question, which is also similar probably to the bubbles and all of these, is if I submit a document in which I have tracked changes, will the person that I submit the final product be able to see them because they don't want them to be able to see them?
Okay, let me show you a couple ways to do that. Okay. Also, I wanted to show you guys, you can even mark comment done. So you don't even have to reply. If the person's fixed it within the text, you can mark this comment done. Okay. And it will gray it out. If you don't want someone to see your changes, what you will do is save the file with a new file name. Then go and do accept all changes. Then you can also go and remove all comments using the right click of the mouse button, and you can sorry, wrong place. Come on now. Hello. Oh, that's a font. That's not a comment. That's why. You can go there and delete comment. Okay. And you can move to each comment by clicking the next button to go all through the document to make sure that you've removed them. So if you've changed things, but you want to have your own historical record of what you've changed, save that file. And then save the file under a new file name, go up to accept and accept all of your changes, which is right here. So you're looking at some of the primary ways of the way this ribbon works is keep in mind the little drop down arrows. For some people, that's not intuitive, so it's kind of hard to find. So make sure that you've got, and you can also click on them, okay? And that will tell you how to customize the ribbon. But I would click the drop down arrow rather than right clicking. So all of this stuff really depends on using these little arrows. And I know I'm getting up there. They're kind of hard to see, but using those little arrows, moving back and forth between changes, you can use the previous and next button to make sure that you've cycled through and gotten all of them. But the accept or reject all changes features will wipe the document of those changes. But like I said, for a historical record, you probably want to save it under a new file name. And hitting this track changes button, you can even lock the tracking, okay? Using a password to discourage people from turning off track changes, because sometimes by accident or by computer fluke, track changes will get turned off. But if somebody really, 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 really needs to make sure that everybody's changes are tracked, you can lock it with a password to make sure that people cannot turn that feature off. Do we have any other questions?
That's about it.
Okay, like I said, many apologies, you all. I don't think that my particular ID was set up to be an organizer, so it wouldn't let me in and it made me late. This will be recorded. It will be put up on the Ed Tech channel. My email is in the chat window. Oh, Gail, let's see. I think we did. Is that the question about two people doing markup? It will show up in different colors, and it will say the person's name and their picture. It will have whatever you've set up in your options. So you go to File, you go to Options, and whatever your name is, and you put your initials in. When you make those changes, Word will automatically record who did them and at what time they were done. And they will be in different colors if they're two different people. The default is red. And then I've seen people's colors be light blue, green, and the like. Okay. Is that the one that you were asking about? Awesome. Great. Glad I could help. So I guess that wraps this up, unless anybody has any other question. So once again, I'm just going to go over this really quickly for you all again. Track changes. You can turn it on by clicking the button. You can turn it off. You can even lock it. You can control what you see by simple markup, which simply shows things like comments, but doesn't show the actual deleted text or added text. All markup shows any changes that you've made. No markup is great during the editing process, so you can track your changes and you don't have to see all of that on the screen because it can be very distracting sometimes depending on the amount of changes. And then the original. So if a person wants to toggle back and forth between their original and your changes without all of the edits being seen, they can. And remember, if you like all the changes in the document or you want to send it to someone without the changes, you accept all of the changes. If you don't like a change, you can reject the change, but I always suggest that you'll use the comment feature to tell why you rejected that change. And then you can move to changes in the documents simply by hitting the previous and the next button. And there is even a compare feature where you can compare two versions of a document, but that's a little bit more advanced and would require probably a longer time than what we have scheduled for today. And there's all different types of features here, but those are the features that comprise the little track changes area here in the ribbon. And so unless there are any other questions, I've scrolled down. I don't see any other questions. We're going to wrap this up. But please, if you have any questions about track changes, I'm tdice at tcsedSystem.edu. You can email me anytime. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. And this will be recorded and it will be on the EdTech channel website. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day and thanks for your patience. I love the fact that so many of you came out, and we're going to do this more often. In a few months, we're going to have a webinar about formatting in Word that should help a lot of people, and that one's going to be a bit longer than this. Thank you.